happened to me, right? He goes, do you want to know why? I went, yeah, sure. He goes, because I'd have said, cut it off. Nah.
Tom Hardy has built his legend on contradiction. Ferocious on screen, but often withdrawn in person. His characters are storms contained in silence, eruptions waiting beneath the surface. From Bronson to Inception, Mad Max to Venom, Hardy has never just played roles. He has inhabited battles, against enemies, against himself, against the camera's demand for honesty.
Turn to Ithaca. And beautiful Francis, where have you been?
But in Hollywood, the fiercest battles do not always happen on screen. They happen in trust, in rhythm, in the fragile chemistry between actors. Hardy is known for his commitment, his raw immersion. Yet that very intensity has fractured bonds, pushed colleagues away, and left stories whispered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Hollywood is not just lights and applause. It is egos colliding, tempers tested, patience stretched. And Hardy, unflinching, uncompromising, has walked away with scars of his own. He has praised many, but a few he remembers with venom. Here are 7 actors Tom Hardy finally revealed he hated the most, and why their names remain etched in his story. Number 1. Shia LaBeouf. When Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf clashed on the set of Lawless, it was not just a disagreement. It was a fist fight, so notorious that even the director later admitted the tension became part of the film's legend. Hardy, known for his method-driven discipline, saw Shia's erratic behavior as a threat to the production.
So I ask you, what do you intend to do now?
What began as artistic difference quickly spiraled into physical chaos. Hardy later laughed it off in interviews, but the undertone was clear. Trust had been broken, and the memory was permanent. The story became part of Hollywood folklore. Rumors swirled that LaBeouf once hit Hardy so hard he knocked him out cold. Hardy himself brushed it off, saying with a grin that Shia was a bad boy but a good kid. But behind the humor lay friction. Director John Hillcoat acknowledged that a fight had indeed taken place, describing the set as electric, volatile, and hard to control. For Hardy, who thrived on focus and immersion, LaBeouf's unpredictability blurred the line between creativity and recklessness. LaBeouf later admitted they fought like brothers, a phrase meant to soften the truth. But Hardy's silence in later years spoke volumes. Colleagues described Hardy as protective of the film's rhythm, while LaBeouf often disrupted rehearsals with improvisation and impulsive choices. What audiences saw on screen, two brothers at war in the Prohibition South, mirrored the tension simmering when cameras cut. In the end, their fight was not about bruises. It was about trust. For Hardy, LaBeouf's chaos confirmed a philosophy he never abandoned. In cinema, discipline keeps the story alive. When trust fractures, performance becomes survival. And for Hardy, Shia LaBeouf was the co-star who made survival necessary. Number 2. Charlize Theron. The making of Mad Max. Fury Road is remembered as cinematic brilliance, but behind the desert storms, Hardy and Charlize Theron barely spoke. Crew members recalled heated exchanges, long silences, and resentment over Hardy's tardiness. Theron, precise and punctual, demanded professionalism. Hardy, deep in character, demanded space. Both were unyielding. Later, Theron admitted the experience was difficult, while Hardy confessed he was not at his best. The film survived the clash, but the actors never sought to reunite. The set was an ordeal, months of filming in the Namibian desert, temperatures soaring, stunts exhausting even the toughest cast and crew. George Miller's vision demanded discipline, yet Hardy often retreated into his process. Late arrivals, long silences, sometimes pushing crew patience. Theron, in contrast, arrived sharp, focused, and ready to execute. That difference quickly turned into resentment. She later confessed, "We did not trust each other." Hardy himself admitted guilt years later, saying he was overwhelmed by the scale of the film and the responsibility of carrying Max's legacy. At the time, however, his behavior was a constant friction point. Crew members even positioned mediators between the two leads to keep the production from derailing. The irony is striking. Their conflict fed directly into the movie's brilliance. Max and Furiosa's uneasy alliance, their mistrust, and eventual respect mirrored the real distance between Hardy and Theron. Audiences saw fire on screen without knowing the embers burned just as hot off it. But when the film wrapped, there was no talk of partnership, no reunion. For Hardy and Theron, Fury Road was both triumph and fracture, a masterpiece forged in mutual resistance. Number 3. Leonardo DiCaprio. On The Revenant, Hardy and Leonardo DiCaprio gave performances carved out of suffering. But while they respected each other's craft, insiders recall moments of friction. Hardy's improvisational grit sometimes collided with DiCaprio's meticulous preparation.
My soul, the Lord, he know what happened out there.
You killed my boy.
At one point, their arguments over scenes grew so intense that director Alejandro González Iñárritu had to intervene. Years later, Hardy playfully tattooed Leo Knows All on his arm after losing a bet to DiCaprio. But beneath the humor was the memory of battles fought on freezing sets. The production was brutal, sub-zero temperatures, natural light only, and survivalist conditions for cast and crew. Hardy thrived on unpredictability, bringing raw, jagged energy to Fitzgerald. DiCaprio, in contrast, charted each move carefully, rehearsing, refining, and focusing on detail. When Hardy shifted direction mid-scene, DiCaprio sometimes bristled, seeing chaos where Hardy saw authenticity. Leo liked order, I liked risk. Their tension was not hatred, it was friction born of ambition. Hardy occasionally stormed off set, frustrated with Iñárritu's endless takes, while DiCaprio endured in silence, determined to capture perfection. Crew members recalled the two clashing during strategy sessions, DiCaprio pushing for precision, Hardy arguing for instinct. In the end, the film earned DiCaprio his long-awaited Oscar and cemented Hardy as one of the era's fiercest character actors. Still, Hardy later admitted he bet against DiCaprio winning the Academy Award, a bet he lost. True to his word, he tattooed Leo Knows All on his arm. On the surface, it was playful. Beneath, it acknowledged a rivalry forged in ice. For Hardy, DiCaprio was a mirror, equally committed, equally relentless, but walking a different path. And mirrors, when too close, always create sparks. Number 4. Charlotte Riley. Sometimes the hardest clashes happen closest to home. Hardy met Charlotte Riley on Wuthering Heights and later married her. But during filming, Riley reportedly found Hardy's immersion in Heathcliff's darkness unbearable.
Why didn't you believe that I would return?
No, hungry, my love. I don't know.
Their off-screen romance survived, but insiders whispered about arguments fueled by Hardy's method intensity. To her, his roles sometimes bled into reality. To him, that was the price of authenticity. Marriage softened the edges, but the memory of those early storms never faded. Hardy's portrayal of Heathcliff was a haunting performance, wild, unpredictable, consumed by obsession. To get there, he lived the part with ferocity, carrying Heathcliff's storm into every corner of his day. Riley, playing opposite him as Catherine, had to navigate not only the role but the man who seemed unable to step outside it. Heathcliff was living with us. For Riley, this intensity sometimes blurred the line between acting and reality, creating tension that spilled off the set. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable. Audiences saw a tortured love story. But insiders described moments of distance and arguments. Riley exhausted by Hardy's refusal to separate character from life. Hardy himself admitted in later interviews that his process often demanded too much from those around him. To him, it was sacrifice. To her, it was suffocating. Over time, their marriage became a stabilizing force in Hardy's life. But those early storms remain part of their shared history, a reminder that the same passion that built his career could also strain the bonds closest to him. For Hardy, Riley was not just a co-star. She was the one who endured Heathcliff and chose to stay. Number 5. Idris Elba. When Hardy and Idris Elba shared the screen in Rock'n'Rolla, sparks flew, not all of them welcome. Both men commanded presence. Both demanded dominance in a scene.
Come on, everyone knows he's a flamer. You're the only one that doesn't know.
For Hardy, Elba's charisma threatened to overshadow the subtle work he prized. For Elba, Hardy's intensity often crossed into overcomplication. The tension never erupted into public feuds, but those who watched them rehearse noticed the unease, a clash of two actors who refused to yield ground. Guy Ritchie's Rock'n'Rolla was a crime caper built on swagger, but what unfolded behind the scenes was closer to a silent rivalry. Hardy, still proving himself in Hollywood, approached each role with obsessive preparation. Elba, already a rising star, relied on natural authority and charm. Idris could own a room without trying. Their different approaches collided when scenes demanded balance. One actor leaning into detail, the other commanding attention with presence alone. Though the friction never escalated into open hostility, crew members remembered rehearsals filled with quiet tension. Hardy adjusted lines, searching for nuance, while Elba projected effortless control. For Hardy, the challenge was staying visible without surrendering to spectacle. For Elba, it was resisting the pull of Hardy's intensity. What emerged on screen was a sharp, layered chemistry. The tension worked for the film, giving their partnership an edge that audiences could feel even without knowing the history. But off-camera, Hardy rarely mentioned Elba in later interviews, a silence that felt telling. For Tom Hardy, Idris Elba was more than a co-star. He was a rival in presence, a reminder that in cinema, power is not always earned through struggle. Sometimes it walks into the room and takes over. Number 6. Mel Gibson. When Tom Hardy starred in Mad Max Fury Road, comparisons to Mel Gibson, the original Mad Max, were inevitable. But Hardy reportedly bristled at Gibson's shadow.
2 days ago, I saw a vehicle that had hauled that tanker.
Gibson himself was initially skeptical of Hardy taking the role, and insiders suggest Hardy felt the weight of being measured against an icon who had his doubts. Hardy once admitted he struggled with the responsibility, confessing that carrying the mantle left him insecure and overwhelmed. Though Gibson later offered his support, the early tension left Hardy with little fondness for the man whose legacy he inherited. The Mad Max franchise was sacred ground. Gibson's performance in the original trilogy defined the rugged, apocalyptic anti-hero. For Hardy, stepping into those boots meant inheriting not only a role, but a myth. Fans constantly drew comparisons, and whispers circulated that Gibson privately questioned whether Hardy could embody Max's silence and fury. That skepticism was a heavy weight. Hardy later admitted he felt crushed by expectation, saying the role left him confused and insecure during production. His brooding energy on set often clashed with Charlize Theron, but behind that tension was also Gibson's looming legacy. When Gibson eventually voiced his approval of Fury Road, Hardy accepted it politely, but the early doubts lingered. For Hardy, Gibson symbolized the impossible comparison, a reminder that some legacies cannot be outrun. The respect for Gibson's work was there, but the shadow it cast bred unease, not affection. In the end, Fury Road became Hardy's triumph, but it was won not by embracing Gibson's legacy, but by rejecting it, proving his Mad Max was built from scars all his own. Number 7. Joel Edgerton. During the filming of Warrior, Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton delivered performances that felt brutally authentic. Two estranged brothers colliding in and out of the ring. But insiders recall the chemistry was not always friendly.
Balls talking about forgiveness.
That has nothing to do with forgiveness. I got children, man.
Hardy's immersion often led to volatility, while Edgerton, disciplined and technically precise, preferred structure. At times, Hardy's intensity left Edgerton frustrated, particularly during fight choreography that demanded cooperation and trust. One crew member described their energy as authentic because it was real tension. Though the film won praise for its raw power, Hardy reportedly walked away carrying more than bruises. He carried a memory of creative friction that blurred into personal dislike. The fight choreography demanded discipline. Every punch had to look vicious without causing damage. Yet Hardy, who often pushed into dangerous realism, sometimes went further than Edgerton expected. For Edgerton, the unpredictability disrupted trust. For Hardy, the restraint diluted truth. Their clashes, though mostly professional, created an undercurrent of rivalry that echoed the film's narrative. Director Gavin O'Connor encouraged their differences, believing the real tension heightened authenticity. He was not wrong. Warrior remains a visceral portrait of fractured family ties, but the cost was genuine strain between its leads. Hardy carried his method into every scene, demanding immersion. Edgerton, precise and controlled, anchored the film's realism. Together they produced something unforgettable, but their partnership was a storm. After filming, both actors praised the project, yet their paths rarely crossed again. The silence suggested distance. For Hardy, Edgerton was a reminder that even shared success can leave behind scars of its own. A collaboration so powerful it demanded sacrifice, but too volatile to repeat. Their story remains proof that some cinematic triumphs are born not from harmony, but from friction that never fully heals. In Hollywood, conflict leaves a mark far deeper than headlines. For Tom Hardy, every clash, whether with Shia LaBeouf's volatility, Charlize Theron's precision, or Joel Edgerton's control, shaped more than films. They revealed the fragile trust on which cinema rests. Hardy's battles were never only about temper. They were about rhythm, control, and the cost of absolute commitment. Each rival became part of his story, forcing him to confront not just egos around him, but the storm within himself. And yet, these scars gave birth to performances that linger, raw, unforgettable, and fiercely human. They remind us that art is not born in comfort. It is forged in fire, in tension, in the places where trust falters and survival takes over. Hardy's legacy lies not in harmony, but in the brutal honesty of his struggles, where even hate left behind fragments of truth. What do you think? Which of Hardy's feuds surprised you most? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more untold stories.